Good morning, everybody. This is Candy Scott at the Research Institute at Western Oregon University. I am happy to welcome you all to today's webinar. We are excited to share some information with you. And just to go over a few things first, this webinar is being recorded. It was meant to be recorded when we had a webinar back on August 22nd, but I made a mistake and was unable to record that. So for those of you who were able to participate, a lot of the information will be similar, and we still feel like it would be a great review for those of you who were able to participate last time. And also, for all of you who were not able to participate last time, we look forward to sharing this information with you. So on today's webinar, mostly Pete Reedy will be sharing some updates from ODE, and then Jaime Singer from AIR has some opportunities to share with all of you. And while we're having the webinar, I just want to remind folks about how an Adobe Connect meeting can work and how you can share your ideas. Amy Powers already shared with one of the options, which is to type something into the chat box. So anytime you have a comment or a question, you can type it into the chat box and we can all read it. And then also you have an icon at the top of your screen that looks like a person raising their hand. And so you can do that, press that icon and raise your hand, and then we'll know that you have something to say. And the other way is to just unmute yourself and jump right in. And so if for some reason either of those two options is not working for you, you do have that option. And I do want to also reassure you that you will have an opportunity to ask questions of both Pete and Jaime later on during the webinar. So again, thank you all for joining us. I hope your school year is off to a great start. And I think I'll just go ahead and hand this over to Pete. So Pete, are you with us?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Maybe speak up a little bit, Pete.
Okay, is that better?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. This is one of many update webinars that we've determined to proceed with on a regular basis so that we can share information with you on a consistent manner in a variety of topics. One of the main things that we're involved in is to inform grantees of updates and items of interest for grantees in their communities, and then also opportunities that we can get involved in, and we want to encourage you to be involved in. And also, it isn't just to share with you, it's really to hear from you. So I agree with what Candace is saying, and please give us questions and raise your hand. You can save until the end, or as appropriate, you can go ahead and make your point during this time. What I'm working on doing at the moment is wanting to advance this slide. Is this under my control at this point, Candace?
Yeah, it should be if you select the arrows at the bottom left of your screen and just select the one moving forward, and there you go.
So there we are. Thank you very much. I'm used to using it on a standalone. But the main point here is simply that we do serve the entire state, and the focus points for this are statewide developments. We want to be sharing practices and opportunities and developments in our work so that we can really enhance the quality of our work statewide. Also, as we are looking at starting year 4, and we're doing that right now, we're closing in on the 5-year timeline for this grant. And we want to definitely realize and reframe the process that we have new legislation coming up that changes the terms in which we will be providing this work. And also, we wanted to let you know about some of the things that have made changes for us already. So some of the topics we wanted to mention have to do with this category, which is program updates. We have a McKinney-Vento homeless collaboration with 21st Century. We have a data collection pilot with Easy Reports. We have a summer initiative, and Oregon is a part of cohort 1 of that U.S. Education Department summer initiative, and we have a brief mention of Science of Sport. Science of Sport doesn't have its own slides, so I'll just mention it briefly here. I sent out a couple emails to folks asking if they might have an interest in learning about some curriculum that provides really STEM in the context of sports. They have baseball, soccer, and they're pretty much, they're making good headway on completing their basketball unit. We're trying to defray costs of those who have an interest in adding this to their after-school opportunities, and currently we have 6 sites. So this Science of Sport will be present at our statewide conference, and you can learn more about it directly there, and I believe there'll be a brief session in addition to having some training for those who've asked to be a part of that process. So as we go forward, that's the last you'll hear of Science of Sport, but please do email me if you have an interest in finding out more about this. And also, of course, there'll be other things in November. The 21st Century McKinney-Vento Homeless Collaborations we have mentioned previously, and we've had a couple of the meetings at our statewide conference previously. Last year, in the middle of the year, we had 6 grantees who were identified primarily in partnership with our McKinney-Vento Education Specialist here at Oregon Department of Education to provide some collaborations between after-school and McKinney-Vento services for homeless students. And this is in response to some significant increases in the numbers of homeless students, and it was an obvious overlap. In other words, a Venn diagram of the day of a McKinney-Vento homeless student and their vulnerabilities, and the time of operation for an after-school program provides a tremendous amount of value added to provide services for those students. We've received 4 of our final reports for the first-year cohort. We're awaiting the completion of 2 more, one of which was only active during the summer, so nobody's late, but these reports are coming in, and so far they've really been compelling. We are reviewing those, and we'll review those with Donna Bolt, and also we'll take a look at what our budget has to say about being able to continue or perhaps advance this enhancement. The next slide deals with the data collection pilot. Some of you are aware of this because it was mentioned in our spring conference making this available. We do have these grantees with 48 sites piloting Easy Reports, and we're providing not only the software itself, but we have also contracted with Kathy Kolash, I'm glad Kathy's on the line today, to provide additional technical assistance to grantees as we all may need or recognize that we have a need for individualized support and technical assistance in training and troubleshooting. So Kathy's available for those grantees to help them get on board and also to help them with technical issues. Although Easy Reports has been very amenable and supportive of this process. So we are working with them in addition to not only entering our data, but also automating the annual year-end report using Easy Reports this year. And we're hopeful that that will really reduce the amount of redundancy and align our reporting in a vertical way and also help you locally in your programs. If you have interest in any of these items, please don't hesitate to let me know. The Summer Initiative is a new item. We received and read with interest an opportunity from the U.S. Department of Education to apply for a Summer Initiative. And we had 16 grantees currently providing summer programming, and so all I could do was brag about your good work. And so I did that, and lo and behold, they sent back a report saying, congratulations. You're in cohort 1, and we're in that cohort with Oklahoma, Kansas, New Jersey, South Dakota, and California. I have a conference call this week, next week, set up for an initial getting our bearings with the group. It includes Y4Y and synergy resources to provide needs assessment, technical assistance in planning, and other work in strengthening our summer programming. Not that we need strengthening, but we can all learn and share with one another. So we're looking forward to this because it will provide opportunities of individualized support that sustain partnership with states and sub-grantees, and also provides us with best practice learning opportunities for our grantees. So we're excited about that, and we'll be communicating with all of you more about that as we enter into the process of selecting pilot sites for this initiative. This will go through May of 2018. And we want to go to state level advances at this point. Most of you are aware of the fact that we do have an advisory group for 21st century after school programming. It consists of 25 individuals who were selected on the basis of their being representatives with a record of success in running or working with before or after school programs and activities. They're experienced and successful in out-of-school time programs. They represent urban and rural representatives from community-based organizations, school districts, statewide, youth-serving agencies, private nonprofits, public nonprofits, training organizations and youth program services, and nonprofit association representatives. It's a remarkable group of skilled and interested individuals who have a tremendous amount of expertise that they'll be sharing in the process as we move forward. This advisory group will be meeting quarterly for the foreseeable future. At least one of those meetings will be in person each year. And also the first meeting we have is a virtual meeting, September 22nd, 1 week from today. And then the second meeting will be at the statewide conference. And their first main task will be to provide input to ODE about the continuous quality improvement process work with AIR that Jaime Singer will be summarizing for us here in just a moment or so. We're excited about the quality of after-school programs. It is through the quality that we see the results that you see on the screen. Gauging programs' performance based on quality practices is not the same as a high-stakes process. It's actually low stakes but high value. And that's the interest and the focus of where we're launching here, so that we can ensure that everyone has access to training and support and self-assessment and other tools that are useful and helpful to ensure that we're providing high-quality program services. And this is the plan moving forward. So at this point, this is a brief summary of AIR's work here in Oregon. They're involved in the evaluation that was actually a part of 2010 and 2011, and leading indicators for program quality came from the work that they had with the Leading Indicators Advisory Group, a statewide needs assessment from 2013 to 2015, and then this starts the continuous quality improvement process that we'll be going through from 2016 to 2019. And I'm really glad that Jaime can join us today, and this concludes what I had to offer, and that's my last slide. So I want to turn it over to Jaime Singer at this point for her presentation about the work that we've lined out and agreed to embark upon with your partnership and involvement.
Thank you, Pete. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you, Jaime.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. Good morning. This is Jaime Singer, as Pete said, and I am the project director for the work we are doing with ODE on this continuous quality improvement process. So you will be hearing from me throughout the process, and then also my colleague Jessie Newman. She is taking on one of the tasks as well. So between the two of us, those are the two people you will likely hear from AIR. Just a little bit, I do work for the American Institute for Research. I am based in the Chicago office, which is where I am today. Just a little bit about AIR. We're a nonprofit organization working in behavioral and social science research. We also do technical assistance and capacity building in a lot of different areas: education, health, workforce, international development. So that's just a little bit about AIR. Happy to talk more about it later if anyone is interested, but just wanted to give you a sense of who we are. So I also wanted to start with a little bit of background information. I know Pete touched on this at the end of his talking points and his slides, just to ground people in sort of where this work is coming from. So AIR started working with ODE in 2011-2012 on the statewide evaluation. And as Pete mentioned, the big thing that came out of that were the leading indicators. And also, based on that, in the final report and meetings that we had with ODE, we were really recommending that ODE look more closely at the organizational processes that are outlined in the leading indicators. And so that is what led to the next scope of work, which was the statewide needs assessment. So some of you may remember the listening sessions that we conducted, and we're trying to get a sense around the state of what exactly was currently happening in Oregon with the 21st century programs in terms of continuous improvement. So what was happening, what grantees needed in terms of additional capacity or resources, and then what supports ODE and its partners like TRI could provide to grantees to assist with this continuous improvement. So you can see there's this direct connection between what was found in the statewide evaluation. Okay, we want to look more closely, do a needs assessment, look into those, what's currently happening, what's needed in terms of a continuous improvement process. And that brings us to our current scope of work, which is this 3-year project that we're kicking off now, goes through 2019, and we're really looking to develop this statewide continuous quality improvement process with feedback and input from ODE, from TRI, from the advisory group members, and from all of the grantees in the state. So I'm going to talk through this. The current scope of work that we have has 2 tasks, so I'm going to talk through each of those. And as I'm talking, feel free to interrupt me. So you can, as Candy was saying in the beginning, you can raise your hand with the little raise hand button. I am happy for you to unmute and interrupt me, or you can also type into the chat. You do not need to wait to hold questions at the end. So for the overall scope of the work, as I said, there's 2 tasks involved in this. It's over a 3-year timeline. The first task is focused on developing and implementing the actual continuous quality improvement process, and this will be for all 21st century community learning center programs in Oregon. The second task is to focus on better understanding what implementation looks like at a program level. So I'm going to go more in depth into each of these tasks. So in year 1, for the first task, which is develop and implement the CQIP, we will be working with the ODE advisory group to actually develop the process and the associated tools. And so the process, obviously, there are models for how this looks in other locales, either statewide, citywide, or district-wide. But the idea here for us working with the ODE advisory group and with ODE and TRI is that this will be very personalized and specific for Oregon and the Oregon 21st Century programs. So we will be focusing on the organization level processes, so what goes into kind of, if you think about the activity level of the foreground, what goes into the behind the scenes or the background of running a program. So we're looking at staffing and professional development. Does the program have an advisory group? So all those organizational level processes, as well as what's happening actually at the activity level or the point of service level, what's happening when adults are interacting with young people and young people are interacting with each other, and what does that look like? So year 1, this school year, will be spent really diving into all of that with the advisory group to develop the process and the tools, to either develop tools or recommend pre-existing tools if we find ones that we think are relevant and reliable and valid that we would want to use. Year 2, which starts next fall 2017, we'll be rolling out the CQIP as optional to all 21st century grantees, and this is really on a voluntary basis because we understand that all current grantees will be in year 5, their 5-year grants. So some sites may be really interested in going through this process in year 5 as a way to set goals and priorities to continue. Some grantees or sites may look at this and say, we're in year 5, this is too much to do right now, we're going to pass at this point in time. So this is really, it's voluntary and optional in terms of that 2017-18 rollout. We will also be incorporating the CQIP into the new RFP. We'll be working with ODE and figuring out what makes the most sense in terms of incorporating that into the next round of funding, so that then in year 3 of our contract, which would be year 1 of the next cohort in Oregon, we'll be rolling out the CQIP to all grantees in that new cohort. So it's really, we think it's structured in a way where we're spending a good chunk of time developing. We're doing this kind of soft rollout, so we'll be collecting, all throughout this, we'll be collecting feedback and input from people from different sites who have gone through the process to make little tweaks and changes based on what implementation of the process has actually looked like, what's working for people, maybe what needs explained a little bit more. So we've built in time to try to be really responsive to grantees and to sites who are going through this process. So that's task 1. I'm going to pause there and see if anybody has any immediate questions. Okay. To do long pauses when I'm on webinars to give people time to unmute. I'll go ahead and go on to task 2, but feel free to speak up if you have any questions. So for task 2, as I had mentioned, this is really to better understand what implementation looks like at the site level. So in year 1, what's happening right now, we're in the process of developing recruitment materials, so you guys will be seeing some information come out from us. But we will be recruiting 10, it says here 10 grantees, and it will be 10 different grantees, but it will be a specific site. So if you have multiple centers as part of your grant, it will be one specific center. So recruiting 10 grantees who are going to commit to working with us for 2 years. So this would be in year 4 and year 5 of the grant. So in this first year, we will be visiting each of these sites and conducting a site visit that includes an interview with the site coordinator and an observation of at least one afternoon of after-school programming. And this is really just to get a sense of what things look like at that site at that point in time and provide sort of a baseline information of what's happening. So that's just for these 10 grantees, and we're calling these the CQIP cohorts. We're trying not to get different cohort names confused. And then as part of task 2, we will also have an end-of-year youth experience survey that will go out to all grantees. We plan to have this be an online survey. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for sites to collect this information. We will definitely work with sites that maybe don't have the technology to support doing an online survey for all youth in the program. We can provide paper copies, so we'll work on that on an individual basis. But we basically you'll see that in each year we'll be collecting this end-of-year youth experience survey. And the reason behind that, and Pete kind of touched on this also, is that if you step back and think about, why do we care about continuous quality improvement and why are we implementing this process in the first place? The ultimate big goal of this is to have effects on how youth are actually experiencing and engaging in the programs. And so we want to get a sense of what does that look like over time. So this year 1, again, is the baseline information of this is what youth experience looks like in year 1. You'll see in year 2, we'll collect this information again from all grantees, and we know some grantees are going to opt into the process, others are not going to opt into the process. That's totally fine. We still want to collect that information from all youth to get a sense of their experience. Also in year 2, those 10 grantees who opted in to participating in the CQIP cohort, one of the things they're committing to is actually participating in the process in year 2 when it's rolled out to everyone as optional and they can participate on a voluntary basis. Those 10 grantees who are opting in are committing to participating in the CQIP in year 2. Year 3, we'll be looking at ensuring this fidelity of CQIP practices. So this is where we're going to be taking information that we're collecting in year 2 to to update training and supports as needed as we roll this out to everyone. And this is going to be something, once we start getting further on into the process in year 1 and year 2, this year 3 is going to be, we're going to progressively elaborate, which is a term I have learned recently in my taking a project management professional certification course. So that's a term I've learned that I really love, so I'm passing it on to all of you. We'll progressively elaborate as we learn more about what this is looking like in actuality and in implementation. That will determine a little bit as we get closer to year 3 of what that looks like in terms of this task 2. I also have a table just to lay out. I know that's a lot of information in terms of what are these 10 grantees doing versus what are all grantees doing in year 1 and year 2. So this table lays that out a little bit more also. So you can see I will be at the fall conference providing an overview for everyone about this process. I am going to be talking for just a little bit at lunch. There will also be a webinar. Actually, there's not going to be a webinar. We were trying to decide between a webinar or an in-person meeting at the fall conference. I think we've decided on in-person meeting at the fall conference for those 10 grantees that are opting in to be part of the CQIP cohort. So that will be just for them, not for all grantees. We will also be conducting the baseline site visit for the CQIP cohort, just those 10 sites. And then the end-of-year youth engagement survey will be for everyone. So that's year 1. In year 2, you'll see the implementation of the CQIP. That CQIP cohort will be doing that, and then it's optional, open for volunteers from the other grantees. We'll be interviewing the CQIP cohort in year 2. So we will not conduct another site visit, but we will be interviewing site coordinators to learn more about the actual implementation of the CQIP. We will not be doing that for all grantees. But then again, the end-of-year youth engagement survey we will be doing for all grantees. So that is a quick rundown of our 3-year scope of work with ODE. And now I'd just like to open it up to ask Pete, do you think there are any main points or nuances that I was missing? And then, Pete, once we hear from you, maybe open it up for questions about this or other things as well.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
It sounds as though there's an opportunity for grantees to volunteer who may not be part of the cohort group that's receiving some of the direct work and interactions with AIR. Is that correct?
Yep, and the CQIP cohort is not necessarily getting more attention or anything from AIR. They're receiving baseline site visits in year 1, so people who opt in to participate in this in year 2 would not get that baseline site visit. So that's the main difference. And then the CQIP cohort is committing like soon, before November, to participating in this process. Those are the main differences. Thank you for clarifying that.
Well, thank you. It sounds like it's an opportunity for everyone to learn from this process and learn together. Can you help me with when people will be hearing from you about being selected or involved in the 10-center cohort group and what the process would be on the volunteers?
Yeah, so for people who are going to opt into the CQIP cohort, we're in the process now of developing the recruitment materials and the more specific timeline, which we'll actually be talking with Pete about later today. So the goal is to have all 10 sites chosen prior to the November 17th and 18th conference, because we will be meeting with people in person at that conference to talk a little bit more about what's involved in the site visits and in participating in the CQIP. So those grantees will be chosen in the next couple of months. We will be sending out an email asking for volunteers, and there will be a brief survey just to capture information about the different sites. And we will also be asking for some nominations from ODE. So between all of that information, we will be selecting some sites. We're looking, as we always do, for a range of characteristics. We want to make sure there's different region representation, different age groups, things like that. So we will look at all of that information and then send out invitations. And we'll have this all determined prior to the November conference. As for grantees opting in year 2 in terms of participating in the CQIP, that will come at the start of the next school year because we have not developed the training processes for this yet, because that's something that the ODE advisory group will be working on this year. I can't say for certain what that will look like, but that will come at the beginning of next school year. And we will be updating all grantees throughout this year, either through webinars like this, just making little guest appearances in these webinars to update as needed. And we will also be at the spring conference, and I imagine we'll have a larger update at that time. We will progressively elaborate, yes. Other questions from people?
Yeah.
We do have our first ODE advisory group meeting next week, I think a week from today, in the afternoon. So we'll be talking more in depth with advisory group members and start thinking through some of these processes and things that should be involved. And we'll have a more in-depth meeting on November 17th at the fall conference.
If I could add one thing, we have been in discussion at ODE and also with AIR about the extra time that might be involved for both those who are selected and those who want to volunteer for this opportunity to work on continuous quality improvement in their programs. We recognize that in years 4 and 5, it's a very significant thing to consider the possibility of taking on additional tasks that relate to program quality and involve the time of line staff and coordinators and directors in that effort and enterprise, which is well worth the effort. At the same time, there's a cost-benefit challenge for programs, and we're sensitive to that at ODE. And I want to let everybody know that we are taking a close look at this year's and next year's budgets to see what we can do to offset some of the additional time and effort and labor that would be involved in doing this important work and giving due diligence to that without encumbering yourselves with great costs. So we'll be following up with that also, along with the updates that Jamie mentioned.
I'll go ahead and put my contact information up while people are thinking about if they have questions. This is how you can get in contact with me if you think of anything. I'm happy to answer questions directly, so feel free to reach out. It looked like someone was typing in the chat, but maybe not.
Maybe change their mind. So this is Candy again, and we'll keep waiting to see if there's maybe a few folks that still have questions that they're processing and or type something into the chat box. But in the meantime, you do have Jamie's contact information, and thank you so much for sharing about that opportunity or multiple opportunities over the next couple of years. And Pete, also thank you for sharing updates. And as I said earlier, this webinar is being recorded, and so will be sent out and available to all of you to either share with your colleagues directly or for those who were unable to join us today. So thank you so much to everybody. Thank you also. This is just a little plug for the Fall Conference Planning Committee because we really appreciate all the work you've done in helping to create what we hope is a really exciting and relevant conference happening November 17th and 18th. And please, those of you who are in charge of programming, make sure that you do everything you can to try and get as many of your staff to that conference for at least one, if not both days of the conference. We're very excited about what we're able to offer you this year. And of course, registration and all the information will be coming out in the middle of October, so not too far away when you'll start getting information about that. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.